Good morning, Crisha. How are you?
I am excellent. How are you, Sasha?
I am great. So, today, Remote Islanders, I have someone who I met just recently, and I am super excited to introduce her to you guys. Her name is Crisha, and she's going to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her and how she relates to remote work. So, floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, all remote islanders. My name is Crisha, as she mentioned. I am a business coach and consultant, but my part is really coaching, co working, and community. I have been in the coaching space now for 10 years full time. And I've recently transitioned that into a co-working space in Trinidad and Tobago. We will be a year in November 2025. So pretty new, but really excited about cultivating community, helping remote workers like myself, entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, business owners to really find that space where they don't only have access to work, but access to community, other people who are just like us, and then also access to coaching to help them grow personally, professionally, and most importantly, in their business.
Thank you so much for that. So, first question I usually ask is what led you to pursue remote work?
I think it found me. I was
Okay.
working in HR. This was back in 2015. This is when Periscope had now started. It's an online
Okay.
platform. And I
Yes.
started doing these video blogs, not knowing it would have turned into a business.
Okay.
One day, someone on the call, based on me sharing, they messaged me on Facebook and they said, Krisha, do you coach? I said, absolutely. Now I never coach a day in my life, Sasha. This was like my first time.
Okay.
But I am qualified in HR. I'm used to doing like performance
Right.
reviews and that type of stuff. So I'm like, this can't be that much different. I am sure I can figure this out. I think that first client just recently knew she was my first client. But from that day to today, I've never stopped coaching. From that, yes,
Wow.
to now, coaching has become my life.
Wow, that is incredible
Yeah.
because I mean, sometimes you think HR to coaching, there is a natural progression because in
Yes.
HR you tend to deal with like
To do some of it.
conflict
Yes.
resolution. You have to bring that emotion into the workplace a little bit because you have to remember that employees are people as well, you
Yes.
know? So
Yes.
although it should be employees are people first, not just employees, but that's another story. But
True.
it is, I like that it's a natural progression for you, but it's very interesting that you never coached a day in your life and you thought this would be, hey,
Yeah.
the next
Hey,
step for
that was an
you.
opportunity. Yes.
Yeah, that is really interesting. So then my next question is what led you to go from coaching into developing a co-working space? Because there is no natural progression in that one. I
There.
think
Yeah, it's very
that's
different.
quite a leap, in terms of going from being a coach and going into co-working, owning a co-working space.
Yes. I always had a vision of creating something I call Purpose University. You will always hear me speaking about living in your purpose, understanding your why. I champion that message. So I always had a vision of eventually opening a space where people would go to university, not specifically for degrees, but for their purpose. So let's say I had a
Okay.
passion of sewing or fashion or an unconventional passion, that there would be a university that cultivated that. So it always was at the back of my mind. I didn't know how it would fully materialize. Sort of like the question, are you a coach? It kind of happened sort of like that. So in 2024, I did my first big conference in Trinidad and Tobago. I always
Right.
did smaller events like 25. I think I did up to 60 at one point, but I decided that I wanted to scale this movement. In doing that, I realized in terms of our culture, while I was coaching online for, let's say, 8 or 9 years, then our people like to get together. We like to be in the
Yes.
same room. We like to have a space. We want to come, sit, and write. We don't want to be behind the screen. And I also remember through my dynamic of work that I was working in the corner of my bedroom. My clients didn't know I had a screen and I had a little corner. Then I eventually moved it out to my living room. Then I eventually built a little home office. And I was like, what do people like me who work from home do? Like, where do you go outside of the coffee shop? Where do you go to meet other people, to meet clients? And that conference made me see the need for an in person gathering that was not just annually or every other weekend or some
Right.
random thing, but a community that existed. So the vision of my university and co-working kind of collided, and I took the leap. I just started.
That seems to be your story, taking the leap into the new
Frontier.
adventures, right?
Yes.
That is a very interesting story, because I feel like for me, my remote work story wasn't something that I planned. It is something you take a leap, especially coming from a Caribbean background where we
Yes.
you do the traditional job journey. You get a
Yes.
job, you stay there until you retire. You don't
Yes.
usually jump
Jump
around.
around. Yes.
So, how did you manage your transition from HR to, and I'm assuming HR in an office,
Yes.
to remote work? Like, what
Yes.
was that like for you?
I was doing the coaching and the HR, my full-time job, for about a year.
Okay.
I didn't realize that my coaching income had already met and started to surpass my career income in terms
Okay.
of HR. So I was doing both, passionate about both, but I didn't realize like what the numbers were. The demand started growing for what I was doing. People were connecting to the message. I started a movement. Things started to grow rapidly because at that time we were now kind of coming into this whole online education, online community space. So it started to really amp up. When I realized that, hey, I'm able to make money just by going live online, holding a class, doing a workshop, then I decided to make the transition. Funny thing is, that year in 2016, when I left, I wrote at the beginning of the year in my journal that I will leave my full time job September of 2016. But I forgot about it, Sasha. I didn't even like go back to
Right.
look. Like, I'm such an avid proponent of goal setting and vision board creation now because that's how I feel like I moved my life forward. But then I
Yes.
didn't really know what I was doing. So I wrote it, and then I think in August I made the decision. Only after when I went back through my journal, I was like, oh my gosh, I like spoke this in text. I said I was going to leave in September,
Manifested it. Yes.
and I did. So every September is my, anniversary of
Yes.
leaving. And that's how I kind of made the decision because my income was already like matched.
Yeah.
And I saw what I could do in space and I just enjoyed it. Like I tapped into purpose. I was like, Krisha, you are meant to do this.
Yes. Yes.
And my parents supported. Like that is another wild factor because sometimes the voice of our parents as Caribbeans, they're like, no,
You hear it in your head.
yeah, the
You
safe
do.
route. You need a
Yes.
job. Like, what are you talking about? You go work online. Like,
Yeah, stability is a thing, and I totally understand that, because I have two parents that worked in the public service all their lives. I mean, they've both retired with their plaques and those kinds of things
wow.
from the public service. I mean, we're talking 50 years in public
Ooh,
service, right?
yes,
So I totally understand going to them and saying, I'm leaving my permanent, stable job to go online and
uh-huh.
work. And they look at you like, what? What are you doing? Leaving your pension plan, leaving all of those things
Everything
behind.
behind.
Stability, what we've learned as we've grown up, that's the kind of job journey that we have. It is,
Yes,
it's very predictable, but it's very limiting.
yes,
I found in my journey, you're so myopic. You
yes,
think very, very close. You don't realize Trinidad is a very small place in a
yes,
very large world, and the opportunities that are there for you just from home is
yes,
is it's so massive.
yes.
It really takes a mindset shift. And
It
speaking of
does.
mindset shift, right, it for me, going into remote work it was something I enjoy doing, but because I'm an extrovert, it was very difficult for
Mm,
me, because I crave the interaction of other people. So Did you experience any challenges like that transitioning from traditional office work to coaching? I mean, with coaching, you do get that interaction with people, but
Yes,
it's not the same
it's
because
not the
if you're,
same.
you're not in the same space with them, you can't just look over the cubicle and go, hey, Gil, what's going on?
Yes,
It's not like
yes.
that. It is a little bit isolating. So, have you experienced those types of challenges? And I'm assuming that's one of the reasons you started a co working space as well.
Yes, it's part of it. I don't think I felt isolated because I am introverted.
Okay.
So that was the ideal world for me. Like,
Yes.
wow, I don't have to leave and like people.
Yeah.
So
Outside
that
is
has
very
actually,
peoply sometimes.
it's
It's
peopling.
true.
And I'm like, I
Yes.
could just be home and not people. Okay, this is
Yes.
amazing. So it was not really that part that pushed me to the co-working space. It was me thinking of what do people like me do?
Okay.
And realizing I have not really seen something like what I've created in Trinidad, and I wanted to expose people to that
Yes.
dynamic. So I think my mind was broadened because firstly I went to school in the US for my first degree and I
Right.
had different exposure. When I started doing online, I would travel to speak, travel to coach.
Right.
So I had a broader vision. And like you said, Trinidad is a tiny space in a big world. And I was like, wow, we need these types of environments.
Yes.
Like, why do I have to leave Trinidad to come to a major conference? Why do I have to leave to get into rooms where it can
Yeah.
expand my mind? And I said, Krisha, you will create this room for people on the island who may not have ever left, their part of the world to go somewhere else. But
Yes.
why can't the world come to us? It absolutely can. The world is
It
smaller
can.
now. So that was kind of my driving force, not really the needing of to have people around, but the exposure and building. There's so many brilliant people working remotely in Trinidad and Tobago that are
Yes.
in their little corners without a network.
That is true. That is very, very true. And that is something I'm trying to create coming out of the remote islander because it is, it's hard to be in a silo. It
It can be
really is
lonely. Very, yes.
really lonely sometimes.
Yes.
I have the luxury of having my kids around. So,
Yes.
I still get that interaction. I get to drop them. So I do go outside and do those things. But it can be very, very lonely because
Absolutely.
especially if you have a job where you're not doing meetings, where you're doing everything on your own, like a lot of those
Yes.
freelance social media people, you're by
Yes.
yourself, you're doing
Yes.
everything by yourself. So it can be lonely. And that is something I've been trying to do myself, create a community of remote islanders like myself, like you,
Yes. Love
in
it.
the Caribbean, in Latin America, just so that we know we exist and
Yes.
you can just reach out to somebody, in that network.
Yes.
When you're feeling lonely, we can do meet and greets, whatever we need to do. That is my dream for
I
this.
love that.
Yes. So, one of the things that I also struggle with is work life balance. And that happens especially when you're in your bedroom in the
Yes.
house that you're not really getting out of a space. How do you manage your work life balance? Is that something you struggle with?
So I don't believe in work-life balance, and I'll tell you why.
Okay. That's
Because I don't
interesting.
believe, yeah, I don't believe you could give equal time, energy, effort to anything. So I do believe in harmony. So I strive for
Okay.
work-life harmony,
I
where
like
I
that.
prioritize things based on where I am in my life, what needs to get done, and where my priority lies. So that harmony now will mean that I shift the balance dependent on what needs more of me at
Okay.
that given time. Because I also manage a remote team with people like all over the world, I have to know, okay, when does Krisha get time? When does the space get time? When does my work get time? My clients get time. So
Yes.
to try to balance all of that, it's difficult. But
Yeah.
harmony, there's some days that one may get a little bit more, one may get a little bit less. So I strive for harmony. That's why I don't believe in work-life balance. But also with the space, that was kind of my vision to have like game nights, like prayer nights, just do more holistic things because when you are home and you have like you can set your own calendar and that type of stuff, everything else gets done, but you don't really take care of yourself.
That's true.
So you're sedentary, you're sitting all day at a desk. You might be in the fridge 20 times. You might cook, you might snack. So the health part might suffer.
It
Um,
does. It
yeah.
definitely does.
So like I think you have to like shift. So I had to notice those dynamics. And there are times that I force myself, I like having the space because I'm going somewhere. I'm going to
Yes.
it.
Yes. I found with me, when I first started remote work, something as simple as getting dressed up for it was a big game changer for
Yeah.
me. Even though my commute is literally across the hallway,
Yes.
2 minutes from my bedroom,
Yes.
um, I had the luxury of having a space where I could set
Yes.
up my laptop. So that was one thing, not sitting in my room,
Yes.
but getting dressed up, doing my makeup was a
Yes.
big thing for
That's
me.
big.
It is a big thing because it helped me, one, feel good about myself. And
Yeah.
that may sound a little superficial, but it
I
did help me
understand.
boost my just, that overall feeling of, wow, I look nice today.
Yes.
And then it just helped get my mind in a state of, okay, we're going to work now.
Yes.
So I'm not lazing on my bed. I have my time set out. This is my deep thinking time. This is
Yes.
my email time. These are my meeting times. So it set my mind in that work mode. But I do
Yes.
like that concept of work life harmony as opposed to work life balance, because it really kind of makes you think about it a little differently.
Yes.
Balance is hard
Yes.
because you're trying to do everything
It's
50
like
50.
juggling. Yeah.
Yeah, which in on some days is not really possible. And if you're a type A personality like me, where you feel like when you don't accomplish certain things it's a failure,
Yes.
it is something to set your mind to think, okay, I may not have balance, but I have harmony.
Harmony.
So that I really do like that lesson of harmony versus balance. And maybe I'll change that question to that
Yeah.
as I move on through interviews. So I appreciate that.
My
One of the
pleasure.
things I have recently, and when I say recently, within the last 6 months gone through, is burnout. Burnout in remote work is a very real thing. It's very different from burnout in your office life because the commute is draining. You come home, you have to deal with dinner, children, homework, all of those things. Burnout for remote workers can look very different. For me, it was, not being able to disconnect from my
Yes.
job because
Yes.
everything is on my phone,
Yes.
or I felt like I needed, because I don't have a set office time.
Yes.
Although I
Yes.
do have set office hours, I felt, I'm not going to and from somewhere. I needed to be connected 24
Yes.
7.
Yes.
And
Yes. I
I
understand.
found
Yes.
myself extremely tired, extremely mentally drained. Have you experienced burnout?
Absolutely. You're preaching to the choir. I'm sure the
Yes.
listeners right now are like, yeah, talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Because I did not have any boundaries, and I have a
Yes.
type of personality very similar that in my free time, because I enjoy work, free time looks like work.
Yes.
So there was no like turning off. If I'm not coaching or doing sessions or with the staff, I'd go read a book. Like everything was mentally stimulated
Yes.
because I felt like being still meant, oh, you didn't accomplish anything or you didn't do much. So I did burn myself out. And sometimes I have to like protect myself against that by putting certain focus tabs on my phone, locking off the apps,
Yes.
checking emails at certain times because I'm always tempted to see, okay, what's going on. Let me make
Yes.
sure I don't miss anything. Which, like, I feel like I'm thinking when I'm sleeping too. Like, I didn't rest because your mind is always thinking about the next thing or the
Yes.
next task or client work. So
You
I
don't
think that's
switch
a
off,
real,
right?
no,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a real dynamic for
It
remote
is.
workers because we struggle to switch off, and even when we're off we might be tempted to peek
Yes.
in.
Yeah,
um
still slightly
but
connected, even though you're not all the way off. It's very true. I had to set um do not disturb times on my phone
yes,
so that I don't even see the
same
notifications,
same
because You hear the ping and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And you're grabbing for the phone just to see. Nobody's dying, but in your mind, you feel like if I don't get back to this immediately, something is going to fall apart.
Yes.
And that is a very real struggle that I still have to this day.
Yeah. Same.
Boundary
So,
setting with my remote work is very difficult. And then because remote work shifts and changes, and I'm sure with you because you're running a space as well. So you have your work, you have your space to run, and you need to really be mindful of how you're setting those boundaries in order to gain that work life harmony.
yes. I absolutely do. And as a coach in a space, it's not just like you're renting space, you're also renting my thought process. So
Yes.
once people are working, they can come ask me questions about their business, and that's what I am cultivating. So it's not just really about space, it's
Yes.
more connection, access. That, hey, there's a coach here that I can easily just go ask a couple questions and then get back to work. So that too also creates that continuous mental activation like all the time.
That is so true. I
Yeah.
can see that being. I can't see myself going through that because I will always want to be on, and I love helping people. So you how do you say no? I can't do this
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
That's something I will very
Yes.
definitely struggle with. So how do you do that? Like how are
Oh my
you able
God,
to?
Sasha.
I
I'm
know that's
learning.
I
I'm
know
still
that's a hard
learning.
question. Yes.
It's super hard, especially as my brand scales, because I
Right.
still have a very um, active or strong international presence in addition to doing things locally.
Okay.
So you find that a couple of years ago, how fast I could respond, how quickly I could get back to things was a lot faster. I've also built my brand on being kind of like the girl next door or your best friend, somebody very reachable, approachable, accessible. So I built my brand on that very early, kind of showing people what my life is like, what I
Yeah.
do, sharing just really transparently. Now, as a business scales, it kind of clashes with that girl next door brand because now you're not as accessible. I try to be, but it's super tough. I miss text messages, I miss calls, I miss WhatsApp, I miss all the notifications simply because the demand for me is more. So I don't have
Yes.
the answer to that question because I'm still trying to work out
Working
that
it out.
dynamic myself.
It sounds like you need an assistant,
I do. I
but
need a second, third, and fourth brain.
you do, and I mean, because I don't think, just my opinion, it may not be sustainable for you to do everything by yourself,
No.
especially as you scale, as you get bigger, and just based on the conversation we have had, that is your intention. So you
Yes.
may have to look into a virtual assistant. We exist. Let me know if you need one.
Y'all
I
are
know lots of
powerhouses.
people. I know lots of people that can, definitely be behind you in your brand and understand exactly what you're trying to attain and help you build that. So, holla at
Yes,
me. We
for
could connect on
sure.
that.
For sure.
But I want to ask you specifically about your co-working space. What is your dream for it? Like, what is it like now, and where would you like to see yourself go?
Oh, I love this question. Because I can see it in my mind. So I'm so excited. Right now, we are open concept co-working space. So we do have shared workspaces. I convert the space. The space is very flexible. So we do
Okay.
classroom style settings sometimes. We do boardroom style sometimes. So every time you come into the space, it's probably going to look different because I
Okay.
shift the furniture around very often because it's an open concept space right now. So that's
Okay.
kind of what we have right now, open concept that can be used for classroom style workshops and so. My vision is I really want three levels of the space. Now I see the first level being a social level with
Okay.
coffee shop, couches, kind of like hangout, not as formal, more of a meetup, more of a hey, I'm here to network. One of the things I have in the space, I have these tents on the table that says I'm in my zone or I'm ready to
Okay.
connect. So I let people turn it. So if you want to focus on work, then you can turn it to I'm in my
Mm-hmm.
zone. If you want to connect, you can turn it to say I'm ready to connect.
I
So it
like
just
that.
tells other people around,
What your
hey,
mindset is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
because
I like
I'm
that.
introverted, so I also thought of the dynamic that everybody is not very easy to network, speak to other people. So that's an invitation. So on that
Yes.
first floor will be that type of interaction, kind of
Okay.
meet and greet. On the second floor would be more working. So that would
Okay.
be where we have hot desks, where we have pods, where we have more of a co-working style, offices. That's my vision for second floor. And third floor is going to be fully events. So
Okay.
that's going to be an event space set up to, with the audio and all of that. So once you come into purpose spaces, you'd have three levels of interaction: social, you'll have work, and then
Work.
you'll also have events. So ideally, that's where we're going.
And I could see it. Like I like the concept because at WBN we previously we used to have WBN is the agency I work for. I think I mentioned it to you.
Yes,
And we are completely virtual, but we would have these coffee chats
yeah,
where we all come online together and we just connect, just talk, have a little icebreaker, and it is so fulfilling because
yes,
you get to meet people who either have the same story as you, have different
yes,
stories to you. You get to talk about the things in your life you enjoy reading, hiking, whatever. You make friendships, which is something
yes,
that's very hard to do in remote
yes,
work, I think,
yes,
because you're doing everything online. In my case, my coworkers are in different countries. So it's not like I'm getting to meet up with them on a daily, like on a, we could go out and do things. I
yes,
can't go to a coffee shop for my job because I'm in meetings. So that's very, difficult to
yes,
do. So I know I would love definitely when you get to that point, I'm gonna check you out. But I'm gonna check
yes,
you out before that, of course. So remote islanders, don't worry, we have a walkthrough coming up. We just have to connect because schedules have been crazy, but I will
yes.
definitely get that on. One of the things I want to ask you is, what do you think has been the best skills that you have developed for remote work?
Mm. I think it's always staying current with trends. I'm always learning what's new. So, of course, AI is new right
Yes.
now, or relatively new. So, always keeping ahead of trends, especially in coaching. Um, you need to be aware of what's happening in the business landscape. You need to be aware
Yes.
of economic shifts. How coaching worked when I started 10 years ago is not how it works now. So I always like to say you can have experience, yes, but you also need to be current and relevant. So don't tell people your experience with dust on it. Tell them the experience that's fresh, right?
Agreed.
So so I could tell you how I started 10 years ago, but if you start the way I started 10 years ago, it's probably not going to work. People's attention
True.
spans are shorter. They no longer, I used to do trainings for an hour or more live. Now you can't get people to sit
No.
15 minutes.
No.
They want a 60-second quick thing. They want 90 seconds quick thing. So the dynamics in terms of whatever field you're in, it changes and it grows rapidly. If you don't stay current, then you will become outdated and no longer relevant. And that's going to affect, your quality of life. So I think the greatest skill I've learned is being adaptable. Like I know how to build funnels, I know how to do emails, I know how to do webinars, I know how to do events, virtual events, in-person events. I now know how to start a co-working space. So I feel
Yes.
like every new challenge adds a new skill set. But of course, as a coach, I always turn it into materials. So I'm
Of
like,
course.
in my 10 steps for opening your first space,
Yes.
learn this. So it adds to my skill set and makes me more marketable, increases my value, increases what I could demand, but also increases my product offering. So when I'm
Right.
coaching, people could come to me because I understand so many different dynamics, Sasha. Like I've held cruises, I have a book, I have a planner, I have a space, I've been online. So I stack skills all the
Yes.
time.
And that's amazing because that's one of the things I talk about, in some of the episodes that I have. Upskilling
Yeah,
is the way to stay relevant.
relevant.
And it's something we take for granted. And again,
Mhm.
it comes down to the way we do things in Trinidad. I don't know in the rest of the Caribbean, but it's back to that. You get a job, you do that same job. You're satisfied even though you may not be happy. It's a paycheck. But
Yes,
upskilling, reskilling, it's something we
yes,
don't think about, as
yes.
being important, especially with the advent of AI, where you
Hmm.
have all these jobs that may or may not be here in 5, 10, 15 years. You
Hmm.
have to think about how that's going to affect you as someone whose job can be taken by
But
an
yes,
AI. And it's a very real threat. I'm
yes,
gonna say threat. It no,
yes.
in that instance, it's a threat.
It
But
is.
if
Yes,
you learn how to adapt, like you say, you can use AI as a tool in your
yes.
arsenal
Absolutely.
of whatever you put together so that you could stay relevant. I
Yes,
love that you say being adaptable is one of your things, because my watchwords are be adaptable, be resilient, and be persistent. Those are the
love
three
that.
things that I tell my clients, my remote working friends, or people who are trying to get in it. Those are the things that you need to be adaptable,
Hmm.
persistent, resilient, because
Yes,
those are the things that are going to get you through in most things in life. I think, it's
yes.
I'm not
I
a
agree.
coach, but I do think that those they work in other facets in your life, and it has served me well for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely
So
agree.
yeah, so one of the things I want to ask you, and I know we talked about this when we first met, is what have you learned in your journey as a remote worker, as a coach, as the owner of a co-working space? What have you learned that you wish you knew way back when in 2016 when you were going to start?
Mhm.
What what would you, if you could go back, what would you tell yourself?
If I could go back, I would not create as much as I did back then. I created so many different products, so many different services, so many different digital products because I was new and everything that I kind of had a little bit of shiny object syndrome at the start. Like, oh, new thing. Oh, new thing. So I had that. So I would have focused and zeroed in earlier than I did.
Okay.
Don't regret it though, because I learned a lot from doing that. But going back now, if I had to like advise myself, I'd probably pick a lane and zero in much earlier than I did. In terms of co-working, I am grateful for slow growth. Like mentally, I
Right.
wanted this massive, quick growth, but I wasn't ready for the growth that I anticipated. So I am happy for slow growth because I've learned a lot about people dynamics, managing a space. I've been online for 10 years. So managing a space is very different
Yeah.
um, in terms of co-working. I am very scheduled. I am very planned. I have to be to do what I do.
Yes.
Our culture is, hey, outside the house.
Yeah. It is, that is true. I
So,
dropped by to say hi, and 3 hours later you're still in my house.
girl, getting people to schedule a day they want to work was a challenge. People showed up
Okay.
at the space, and then in the early stages, I would come when there are bookings. So people would call and be like, "Hey, I'm outside the space," and I'm like, "You didn't notify, you didn't book." Put systems in place, put an app in place, put all of this in place. People still don't use it because you know the dynamic. I am used to that as a remote worker, like
Yeah.
clock in, do this, all these different things. Here, that challenge of getting people to, well, I don't know really when I want to come into this space. Sometimes it's just I decide on the morning or I decide. That was so challenging to
I
get
can
people
imagine.
to
Yes.
work
And
before.
for somebody like me who likes to be organized, that would drive me crazy. That would drive me
Listen,
absolutely crazy. My life is logistics and scheduling. I always tell
yeah.
people that as a parent, You're, as a worker, your life is dropping people off, making sure you get work done, picking people up, taking them to
Hmm.
lessons, all of those things. Life is logistics and scheduling. So somebody doing me that, we will have a problem.
A lot
For
of people
sure.
don't live like, I think we probably developed that as a skill as well. That's probably a skill
Yes,
as a remote
agreed.
worker. So the majority of people don't live like that. It's
No.
very sporadic, it's very unplanned. So trying to get people into that type of dynamic has been a challenge for the space as well. Now we've been able to kind of bring it into the culture because, of course, we are also membership driven. So I call
Right.
it the gym for entrepreneurs. So it's sort of like a gym membership where you have your gym card and you're able to access the tools in the space.
Right.
Pretty much same concept, but also a little blend of like a membership model where this gives me access to the space. I did that because I wanted to have a certain dynamic in the space that it's not strangers coming in and out randomly every day. I wanted that when you come, you probably see the same faces because again, it's not traditional co-working. I just come sit at
Yes.
a desk. It's community. So those in the membership use the space. So it's not like, oh, it's public. I could come anytime. And it's just very random. One, as a safety aspect. Two, because I
Yes.
wanted to cultivate more membership driven community. I wanted everybody to know everybody in the space. So I've learned a lot in terms of even that because we're so sporadic, getting people to even pull into community is also a shift and a little difficult dynamic. In the space, they would do it because I've created the environment. When they leave, everybody's about life. So you know when
Yes.
people say, "Oh, call me, give me a call," and then when you leave and
Nothing.
you do call them,
He's like, who's this? Where do I know you from?
yeah. So we
Totally get
haven't
it.
got that aspect. So I've also learned that as well.
That is, I mean, you would think that slow growth, and I think I mentioned this when you talk slow growth, you would want more, you would want it bigger,
Yes.
faster. But I am so happy to hear you say that you appreciated slow growth because that's something that a lot of people will be like, huh? Why would you want slow growth? But it is a way to learn your lessons and grow from it in that moment as opposed to having things happen so quickly that you can't keep up, right?
Yes.
I really appreciate that slow growth message because I think that applies to life, you know.
Yes.
Life is so fast paced
Yes.
sometimes that you feel like you have to keep going with the pace of things, and sometimes you really need to slow down and
Yes.
focus,
Yeah.
definitely focus. I know that is something with me, just focus has been a struggle for me, and it's one of the things I will tell someone who wants to go into remote work. Sometimes you just need to take a step back
Yes.
and look at it from a different angle as opposed to just going with the tide and hoping that you're doing the right thing. So that brings me to my final question to you, which is, what advice would you have for someone who's looking to go into remote work?
I would say don't just go into remote work because you think you want to stay home and work and it sounds easier. I think you have to tap into what is that desire for remote work and not just buy into the whole, oh, I don't have to go into a job. I work for myself. And even though it is those things, it's also a very disciplined life. It's also a very, you have to be consistent, you have to be focused. So there are different things like it will surely develop you. Like all the
Yes.
muscles that you think uh, that have not been developed, it will develop you. It requires work ethic, self motivation. So make sure you're going into remote work for the right reasons and not because of something that was sold online in terms of the laptop lifestyle that I could work from anywhere and I have time and location freedom, which is true. While we do have that, you still also have to be very disciplined, very focused, very driven. So know the reasons why you want to go into remote work. When you go into remote work, treat every opportunity with the greatest amounts of respect, do
Yes.
your best, show up on time. In the company that I work for, we have this core value that we say don't lie, don't steal. So if I'm to show up at 9 and I show up at 11 without communicating, then I lied because there was a commitment to show up
Mm-hmm.
at 9. And then now, if I claim on my timesheet that I worked from 9 to 6, then I stole from the company because
Mm-hmm.
there's
You
nobody
didn't.
watching. There's
Mm-hmm.
nobody that's over you to say, well, did you clock in like a traditional sense? So I'll say the same thing. Don't lie, don't steal. Treat every opportunity as it deserves to be treated. Whatever you're hired for, make sure you provide that with the highest level of excellence
Yes. Yes.
and respect. So know why you're going in, treat every opportunity as it deserves.
I like that because a lot of people who approach me about remote work think, oh, well, you're just working when you feel like
Yeah,
working.
just
You don't
anytime.
have, yeah, nobody's over your shoulder. I'm like, that's, it's may sound like that is what it is, but it isn't anything
No,
but that. But if you are not disciplined, I don't think remote work is for you.
I
Like,
agree. I
if you
agree.
cannot have a disciplined mind where you know at 9 a.m. I need to be clocked in, I need to be by my desk, there is some flexibility that comes with it. I'm not going to
Yes.
lie and say that is not
Yeah,
true.
it has. Yeah.
There is flexibility that comes with it. I mean, there are days I come to work and I'm not dressed up, because
Yes.
I know I'm not having meetings or whatever. So there's that flexibility. You don't have to dress up and show up. You can do that if you like. But the myth, and this is a big myth, people think, oh, remote work is this flexible, fun lifestyle. It
Yes.
can be, it
Yes.
can be, but it is also a lifestyle of dedication. It is a lifestyle of discipline. It is a lifestyle of self motivation. Because most times you don't have someone saying, hey, I need you to do this. You need to know this is what I need to get done. And it is one of my episodes where I spoke about why do you want to be a remote worker? Because people have these great misconceptions about what it's like. So I really like that you mentioned know what it is before you get into it. And that's one of the reasons I asked this question, because the amount of times I hear, oh, well, you're not working. Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Because people think
absolutely.
you're home, they don't see you doing things, you're not by your desk all the time, you're not working. I'm like, I am working. I have my
Yes,
phone, I can do a lot of things from my phone. So it is just a different type of working.
it is.
Yeah. So before we close off, I want to ask you just to tell us a little bit about your space, where it is, how we can find out more about it, and how we can connect with you as well.
Absolutely. So I'm on all social media platforms, Crisha Sarah Bowen. The space, you can find out more information, mypurposespaces.com. Mypurposespaces.com. The name of the space is Purpose Spaces. We are on 114 Independence Ave in San Fernando, which is about 4 buildings before Caldero's Stage and Grill. A lot of people know of Caldero's in
Yes.
South. So it's easy when I say, oh, we're like very close to Caldero's, they can identify where it is. It's strictly booking first, so you can't
Yes.
just show up and be like, "Hey, Christian, I'm here to go work." So you can book through the online platform mypurposespaces.com, or you can shoot us a message on social media. Purpose Spaces has its own pages that you can send a message to connect for more information about the space.
Okay. And I will link everything in our episode. So if you didn't catch that, it's going to be linked, so you can definitely check it out. I have to check it out myself because I feel like it's a good alternative for days when I'm not feeling to stay at home and work. Sometimes you need that
Yes,
change of pace, that change of location. My job does not allow me to work in a coffee shop, like I mentioned, but definitely I will have to check it out, and I will definitely do an episode of follow up on what it's like at
yes,
the purposeful at the I'm sorry, my purpose space.
Yes, love
Yes.
that.
So I will definitely do that. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I enjoyed your story because it's so different. And that's one of the things I love about remote work. Everybody's story of getting into it is so different and so
Different.
unique
Hmm.
to them. And
Hmm.
how you make it work definitely is an amazing story. So I never would have thought going from HR into owning your own co-working space, Quite a leap, but I absolutely love your story. So thank you very much. And guys, look forward to follow-up episodes where we go into the space and see what it's like, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.